What's up everyone? My name is GB and today, what are we gonna do? So while I was scrolling down my Twitter, I read the tweets of my fans asking me questions for episodes 1, 3, and 10 because they couldn't understand Japanese. As you all know, I'm a very helpful person, but I'm not confident when it comes to vlogs because I'm more into music. Well, don't you worry. Since we're in our houses, quarantined because of the COVID-19, I'm going to make a video about this because cells at work is all about the immune system and we have to learn something about our immune system. So, here we go! Episode 1. So the characters involved in episode 1 are red blood cells, the white blood cells, and platelets. And the threat was the pneumococcus, an alpha henolytic cells that crave nutrients. Their target are red blood cells who transport nutrients. First, we're going to explain red blood cells. What is the function of the red blood cell? The red blood cell's function is to carry oxygen throughout the body, and they also carry carbon dioxide. They contain hemoglobin, which permits them to carry oxygen and carbon dioxide. So just like in episode 1, the red blood cells was carrying oxygen in a box to be delivered to the lungs. So now we're going to talk about white blood cells or neutrophils. Their main task is to eliminate foreign substances outside the body like bacteria or viruses. So just like in episode 1, the threat was the pneumococcus and everything else. Now the function of the platelets is to help the body form clots to stop the bleeding. If a blood vessel gets damaged, the blood vessel sends signals to the platelets for repair. So the type of immune defense in episode 1 is just an innate defense because only the white blood cells were taking care of the threat in the body. So episode 3. In this episode, the immune system was invaded by an influenza virus, an infectious disease that can trigger influenza. It falls into 3 categories: type A, B, and C. Its symptoms are fevers over 100 degrees, headaches, joint pain, and muscle cramping. So the characters involved in episode 3 are naive T cells, white blood cells, macrophage, helper T cells, memory T cell, dendritic cell, effector T cell, and B cell. So let's go first with naive T cells. They are an immature T cell which has never encountered an antigen. In this episode, the naive T cell was fighting an influenza virus, and then he was having a trouble facing the influenza virus because he doesn't have any experience and he's acting like a wimp and he ran away. And I was curious why he was acting that way. So I did a research, and based on my research, naive T cells could enable the body to fight off new or unrecognized infections and diseases. During the first part of episode 3, the white blood cell and the macrophage was helping the naive T cell to face the influenza virus. Then there's the T cells. They mobilize under orders from the helper T cells. They kill virus-infected cells, cancer cells, and the like. They are also considered a white blood cell because they fight off invaders. The memory T cell. The memory T cell is a part of the T cells. They are part of the killer T cells and are equipped to attack again when an enemy reappears for the second time. The macrophage has a lot of roles, and one of them is detecting foreign threats, such as bacteria, and then they report it to the dendritic cells to call for reinforcements, like the B cells and T cells. The dendritic cell is the guy wearing a green suit, and he is responsible for receiving and giving feedbacks to the other cells. Their role is to present bacteria that have invaded the body and fragments of viral infection cells as antigens, and to notify other immune system cells. As their name implies, they feature protrusions, and they can activate naive T cells. In this episode, he was so busy because a lot of cells were in trouble. He notified the other cells about the influenza virus invading the body. So while the naive T cell was running away, he met the dendritic cell and told him about his problem. The dendritic cell showed the naive T cell about the past of his senpais, or as we all know, the current T cells. The naive T cell got inspired, and later on, he was activated and turned into an effector T cell. The helper T cell works with the dendritic cell, so when the dendritic cell receives information that the current cells fighting off the threat need some backup, the helper T cell commands the T cells and sends out reinforcements or give them back up. The B cell is the guy carrying a big gun, is a type of lymphocyte that fights antigens such as bacteria and viruses by producing weapons called antibodies. So in episode 3, the type of immune defense is adaptive defense because B cells and T cells are present. Episode 10. So the characters involved in episode 10 are white blood cells, monocytes, and macrophage. And the threat in this episode was a staphylococcus, an antigen residing in the skin and pores. So the white blood cells in this episode was patrolling as usual, and the monocytes are mononuclear migratory cells which comprise 7% of all white blood cells. Like other immune cells, they take part in biological defense. Since they are phagocytes, they consume and break foreign substances such as bacteria or viruses. And when the monocytes got out of the blood vessel, they become the macrophage. So basically, they are the same, the monocytes and the macrophage. Both are produced in the bone marrow and reside in the bloodstream. But when they circulate outside the blood vessel, they become macrophages. So what was the function of the macrophage? Comment down below. So the type of immune defense in episode 10 was just an innate defense because it happened in the nasal cavity, and our nasal cavity falls under the mechanism of innate defense. So again, innate defense is a non-specific defense mechanism that come into play immediately or within hours of an antigen appearance in the body. This mechanism includes physical barriers such as skin, chemicals in the blood, and immune system cells that attack foreign cells in the body. Adaptive immunity defense is defined by the presence of lymphocytes, either T or B cells, and they include both CD8 plus cytotoxic T cells that are the effector T cells that directly destroy tumor cells, CD4 plus helper T cells that regulate CD8 plus T cell and B cell function, and B cells that present antigen produce antibodies. So now we're done discussing episodes 1, 3, and 10. We are going to do Q&A in this video and answer the questions from some random fans around the world! So I printed their questions and I cut them into papers and then I put them in this thing. So now I'm going to take this and pick a random question. So the first question is from Avocado. What did the characters in the anime represent? Good question, good question. So while I was watching the anime, I was wondering why their names were based from cells. So I did further research and I think. Brain blast! So I conclude that based on my research, the characters represented in the anime are the cells in our body. So now we're going to pick another question, and the question is from Bob Marlowe. Why did it take a while for the immune system to defeat the virus? Pa-answer po, salamat. Good question. It takes time for the immune system to defeat the virus because viruses proliferate. They don't die immediately. They so kapoy ng kay English o magbisaya na karon. So mura ra na siya gira. Di ba sa gira magubat man na. Mo take man na og time. Example kani diri mo ni ang mga kalaban, mo ni ang mga good. Always lang. Gahuman kay duha na nabilin. Nya na itong mga good guys. Hey, we need backup. Kina-report siya nga sa main base kay magpa-send og backup send in diri. So managhan sila para ma-counter nila ang ilang kalaban. So mao na siya. So we're going to pick another question, and the next question, Willie Eilish? And the question is, how do cytotoxic or killer B and T cells differ? Pag na-answer mo to, bigyan kita jacket at 5,000. What a very excellent question, because there's a prize. Antibodies are produced by B cells. They activate the immune system to destroy the pathogens. Their difference is that T cells can only recognize viral antigens outside the infected cells, while B cells could recognize the surface antigens of bacteria and viruses. So last but not the least is this one. So I'm just gonna pick this up and read this. Hala, it's from a family. It's Daniel Pamilya. And their question is, can you trace the process of the development of the adaptive immunity? Kung masagot mo to, nasa'yo na ang lahat. Salamat. Uy. So the first step here is the monocyte eats the pathogen. The second step, the antigen part reveals on cell surface. Third step, the receptor of the helper T cell identifies the antigen. Fourth step, helper T cells divide and triggers signals. Fifth step, killer T cells become activated to attack specific pathogen. Sixth step, B cells become activated and produce antibodies. Seventh step, memory cells are produced in case of future infection. That's it for today, my friends. This is JB. And if you have any questions or any suggestions for my next video, just ask or message me on Twitter at JBMSC or comment down below. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, if you like music content, go to my other channel, JibiMSC. I leave a link in the description below, and turn on my notification bell to get the latest updates from my channels. Babush!